Kidman filed for divorce from her husband of 19 years, country star Keith Urban. We've obtained the paperwork, and it reveals that while news of the split is just coming out, behind the scenes, the power couple has been working this out.
For decades, Nicole Kidman's life has played out under the blinding light of fame, an image of elegance, composure, and resilience. Yet behind that flawless facade, her world has quietly endured fractures few have truly understood. Now, as rumors swirl about her crumbling marriage to Keith Urban, the silence that once surrounded her family has finally shattered. Her children, who have long stayed away from public commentary, are now speaking out. Their words have peeled back layers of Hollywood perfection, revealing pain, loyalty, and truth in unexpected places. What did Nicole Kidman's children finally reveal about their parents? Let's find out.
So, I'm going to speak to a little bit about a particular view I get of Nick for a long time now.
For years, the world only saw the surface. Nicole Kidman, the Academy Award-winning actress, and Keith Urban, the country music superstar, standing side by side on red carpets, smiling for cameras that never stopped flashing. Behind those practiced smiles, however, existed a fragile stillness, a silence that seemed too polished, too perfect. It wasn't until recently that cracks began to appear in the pristine image of their marriage. Close sources now confirm that Nicole and Keith's relationship has been strained for months. Distance, conflicting schedules, and emotional exhaustion took their toll. Reports surfaced of the couple living separate lives, Nicole focusing on new projects in Australia, while Keith remained in Nashville, tending to his music career. To the public, it looked like a simple professional divide. To their children, however, it was something much deeper. The couple's two daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, were caught between two worlds. Raised away from the chaos of the tabloids, they were taught to protect their privacy. But as whispers of separation grew louder, that protective silence began to break. A close family friend revealed that the girls recently opened up during a private conversation, expressing sadness about their parents' distance, yet admiration for their strength. Their words weren't bitter, they were reflective. They love both their parents deeply, the insider said, but they've seen things the world never has. That quiet acknowledgement struck a chord with fans who once viewed the Kidman-Urban marriage as unshakable. The echoes of Nicole's past also returned. Her earlier marriage to Tom Cruise and the strained relationship with her older children, Isabella and Connor, who chose to remain close to their father. The past and present seemed to collide as old wounds reopened under the glare of new heartbreak.
And I have to not absorb.
Long before the world began speculating about Nicole Kidman's troubled marriage, her children had already learned what it meant to grow up under the weight of silence. Their story began in homes filled with glamour and applause, yet underneath that brilliance lay a strange emptiness, a childhood shaped by both privilege and distance. To be Nicole Kidman's child meant inheriting fame you never asked for, and to survive it, you learned early how to hide your feelings behind polite smiles. When Nicole's older children, Isabella and Connor, were adopted during her marriage to Tom Cruise, the world saw a family glowing with unity. But that image dissolved almost overnight when the marriage ended in 2001. The children remained with Cruise, reportedly embracing his devotion to Scientology, while Nicole was left portrayed as the distant mother, a narrative that haunted her for years. Insiders now reveal that the pain of losing daily contact with her eldest children deeply influenced the way she raised her younger daughters, Sunday and Faith. In the quiet corners of their Australian home, Nicole tried to create the normalcy she once lost. No paparazzi, no flashing cameras, just baking, reading, and early mornings spent on their family farm. But even in that tranquility, there was always the unspoken awareness that their lives were not truly ordinary. Every photograph, every public outing carried the weight of expectation. Every smile had to look convincing. Sunday, now a teenager, has reportedly confided that growing up under constant media scrutiny felt like being watched by ghosts, people who didn't know her but thought they did. Faith, the youngest, is said to be fiercely protective of her mother, often standing up to classmates or strangers who mention the gossip surrounding Nicole and Keith. She's her mother's shadow, a family acquaintance shared. Quiet, observant, but strong when it counts. As tension between Nicole and Keith began to surface, their daughters noticed before anyone else. The sudden silences at dinner, the separate travel schedules, the faint trace of sadness in their parents' voices, all were warning signs too subtle for tabloids but impossible for children to ignore. The change came quietly, so quietly that even those closest to Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban didn't notice at first. It wasn't a loud fight or a public scandal that signaled trouble, but a gradual fading of warmth, a soft withdrawal behind smiles that no longer reached the eyes. To the outside world, they were still the picture of unity. Yet, beneath that polished veneer, something sacred was beginning to unravel. Friends began to sense it during award season earlier this year. Nicole attended several events alone, explaining that Keith was working on music projects in Nashville. But insiders knew there was more to the story. The couple had grown accustomed to living on separate continents. She, drawn to the rhythms of her Australian roots, and he, to the creative pulse of Tennessee. The distance was once manageable, a healthy balance between two demanding careers. Now, it had become an emotional gulf. When they did reunite, people close to them noticed an unsettling quiet. The laughter that once filled rooms was replaced with polite conversation. Keith, ever the romantic on stage, seemed withdrawn in private moments, while Nicole, elegant as ever, carried an air of melancholy she couldn't quite disguise. One insider described it as watching two people love each other deeply, but standing on opposite sides of a glass wall. The storm reached its first real flashpoint during a family gathering in Sydney. Witnesses said the mood was tense. Words were exchanged behind closed doors, voices low but sharp. The daughters retreated to their rooms, sensing the undercurrent of pain without fully understanding it. For the first time, the illusion of harmony had cracked within their own home. Shortly afterward, Keith returned to the U.S. alone. Nicole stayed behind with the girls. Reports emerged of her confiding in close friends, saying she felt unanchored, unsure if their marriage could withstand the growing distance. But what made the situation even more poignant was how calm she appeared in public, serene, collected, and impossibly graceful. Behind that calm, however, was the unmistakable sound of something breaking. The media called it a temporary separation. Those close to the family knew better. It was the beginning of the end, an emotional shift so deep it could no longer be hidden behind glamour, red carpets, or carefully chosen words. The storm had finally arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.
Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's children make their red carpet debut. The couple bring along their daughters, 15-year-old Sunday Rose and 13-year-old Faith Mar.
Friends recall that the first sign of unspoken pain came during a quiet evening at their Nashville home. Nicole, seated by the window, had been reading a script when Keith entered, guitar in hand. He began to play softly, hoping to bridge the growing distance. She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. The air was thick with everything they weren't saying: resentment, exhaustion, and the slow erosion of a bond once built on admiration and love. The unspoken truth was that both had been changing. Nicole, forever drawn to stories of transformation and resilience, was immersing herself in roles that mirrored her inner turmoil. Her latest film, according to crew members, demanded emotional vulnerability that felt almost too real. Keith, meanwhile, poured his emotions into his songwriting, his new tracks tinged with melancholy and regret. Those around them saw the tension unfold, but respected their privacy. The daughters, however, could not escape it. They watched their parents exchange cautious smiles at breakfast, heard the quiet sighs after the phone calls ended, and felt the chill that filled the house once laughter had left it. They loved each other, a family source shared, but love had turned into endurance. But when news of their growing distance began circulating in the tabloids, neither Nicole nor Keith issued a statement. Behind that silence, their children struggled with confusion. Sunday asked her mother why love sometimes fades. Nicole, unable to find the right words, simply hugged her. It was in that moment she realized the truth she'd avoided for months. Staying silent wasn't protecting anyone. It was only deepening the wounds.
It's one of the most beautiful things. She's so loving. And her and I both come from type 4 member family units as well. So we try and do the same with our girls.
And so, the first unspoken words finally found form, not through press releases or interviews, but through tears, distance, and the quiet acceptance that some endings arrive long before we dare to name them. Those who have known Nicole longest say her greatest burden has always been privacy. Since her early days in Hollywood, she learned that vulnerability was dangerous, that every tear could become a headline, every misstep a scandal. So she built walls of grace and restraint, smiling even when her heart was breaking. It worked for decades, but fame, like pressure, reveals all cracks over time. Her marriage to Keith Urban was supposed to be her safe haven, her second chance at happiness after the turbulent years with Tom Cruise. Together, they appeared to balance glamour and authenticity. She, the acclaimed actress. He, the country musician whose songs of love often mirrored their story. Yet behind that harmony lay the friction of two artists living under constant scrutiny. Keith's tours, Nicole's film schedules, the endless travel. It all slowly eroded the intimacy that once made their love feel unbreakable. Close insiders now say that trust, not love, became the first casualty. Keith's battle with past addictions, though long behind him, cast shadows that occasionally resurfaced during lonely nights. Nicole, ever cautious, became guarded. Her children noticed. The quiet phone calls, the sudden tension during family dinners, the looks exchanged but never explained. Still, Nicole tried to protect the illusion. She attended premieres, accepted awards, and smiled through interviews, all while her private world trembled beneath her feet. The irony was not lost on her, how she could portray heartbreak on screen so flawlessly while living it off-screen in silence. But the truth has a way of slipping through even the thickest walls. Recent reports suggest that her children, older now, wiser, had begun encouraging her to do what makes her heart calm again. Those words, simple yet piercing, became the quiet push she needed to confront the truth. Behind the spotlight's dazzling glow, Nicole Kidman wasn't acting anymore. She was surviving, gracefully, painfully, and with secrets the world was only beginning to uncover. In the beginning, they were inseparable. Keith often called Nicole his savior, the woman who helped him battle his demons when addiction nearly consumed him. In interviews, she described him as her heart's home, a rare stability in the chaos of celebrity life. But no marriage is immune to pressure. When Keith returned to touring full-time, the late nights, endless travel, and separation began to erode their connection. Nicole, filming across continents, tried to bridge the gap with visits and video calls, yet nothing could replicate presence. By 2024, close friends noticed the shift. Keith was rarely seen accompanying Nicole to premieres, and she no longer appeared at his concerts. Insiders described a growing emotional distance, two people who loved each other but no longer knew how to meet in the middle. "They've both been trying," said one friend, "but they're living in two different worlds." The most difficult test came during Nicole's recent film shoot in Europe. Rumors claim that while she was away, the couple went weeks without speaking. Not out of anger, but exhaustion. They had both run out of words that could fix what fame had fractured. When she returned home to Sydney, the tension was palpable. The laughter that once filled their home had been replaced by quiet civility, a kindness that carried the weight of goodbye. Yet even in their lowest moments, there remained an undeniable tenderness. They still celebrated their daughter's milestones together, exchanged thoughtful gifts, and spoke with respect. But the fire that once defined them had dimmed to embers. Their marriage had been tested by addiction, separation, and the relentless pull of fame. This final test, emotional distance, proved the hardest of all. It wasn't betrayal that tore them apart, but time itself. And as the world speculated, they faced the truth privately. Love can endure storms, but even the strongest hearts can grow weary beneath the weight of constant watching. It started subtly, with absences that fans couldn't ignore. Nicole arrived alone at a charity gala in Sydney, her diamond band missing from her finger. When reporters asked about Keith, she smiled that practiced, disarming smile and said he was busy with work. But her eyes betrayed her. Those who knew her well described a quiet sadness, the kind that comes from trying too hard to hold everything together. Keith, too, seemed changed. During his tour, he began introducing songs with hints of melancholy. One night, he told the crowd, "Sometimes love needs space to breathe, even when it hurts." The audience cheered, unaware that his words were less about art and more about confession. Behind closed doors, the pressure was immense. Every gesture, every word was analyzed by the media, turning their private struggles into public theater. Nicole, who once found refuge in her work, began withdrawing from major projects. Her friends whispered that she was tired of pretending, tired of protecting an image built on expectation rather than truth. Their daughters noticed the changes most. Sunday stopped posting cheerful family moments online, while Faith became quieter, watching her parents navigate an unspoken heartbreak. Nicole tried to shield them, insisting that family comes first, but even she could feel the walls closing in. In Hollywood, perception is power. Nicole had mastered that game for decades, crafting a life that looked enviable from the outside. Yet fame is merciless. It demands perfection while punishing authenticity. As stories about their marital strain multiplied, the couple stopped denying them altogether. They simply carried on, two stars orbiting the same world but living on different emotional planes. When the news finally broke, it wasn't through a tabloid leak or a dramatic public confrontation. It came as a quiet statement released early one morning, brief and heartbreakingly formal. After much thought and consideration, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have decided to part ways. They remain committed to their children and ask for privacy as they navigate this next chapter. Just 61 words, and yet it sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. The world stopped. Fans who had followed their love story from its dazzling beginning couldn't believe it. For nearly 20 years, Nicole and Keith had been the rare Hollywood couple who seemed to have conquered the odds. But now, the illusion had fallen, replaced by the stark reality of two people who had simply grown apart. Behind the statement, however, was a far more emotional story. Sources close to the couple say the decision was mutual, but deeply painful. Nicole, known for her quiet grace, reportedly spent months wrestling with the choice. She had fought for her marriage until the very end, through distance, exhaustion, and endless scrutiny. But the moment she realized their bond had turned into a performance, she knew it was time to let go. Keith, ever the poet, poured his pain into music. His next single, "When the Quiet Hurts," is rumored to reflect the final days of their relationship. Those who heard early versions say the lyrics are hauntingly intimate, filled with regret and acceptance. "He still loves her," one close friend admitted. But love isn't always enough to save what fame takes away. Their daughters, Sunday and Faith, have reportedly handled the split with surprising maturity. Guided by therapy and surrounded by extended family, they've learned to separate truth from tabloids. Nicole has chosen to stay in Sydney with them for now, focusing on stability. Keith, meanwhile, continues to tour, visiting whenever his schedule allows. For the public, it was just another celebrity breakup. But for Nicole, it was a quiet ending to a story that had once defined her happiness. She wasn't angry, only reflective. "Sometimes love doesn't fail," she confided to a friend. "It just changes shape." It began quietly. A family friend revealed that during a private conversation, Sunday, now a teenager, spoke candidly about her parents' separation. "We still love them both," she said, "but it's hard watching them live separate stories." Her words, tender and wise, carried more maturity than most adults could muster. Faith, younger yet fiercely loyal, added, "They're both happier now. That's what matters." Those words spread quietly among friends, and eventually, their sentiments reached the public, an honest, heartfelt reflection that cut through the noise of speculation. The world listened. For years, Nicole's children had been protected from the spotlight. Now, their voices became the most authentic account of what truly happened behind the glamour. There was no bitterness, no blame, only love reshaped by circumstance. "Mom taught us that endings aren't failures," Sunday reportedly told a teacher. "They're just beginnings you don't expect." Insiders say Nicole was deeply moved when she heard what her daughters had said. It reminded her of her own journey, the countless reinventions, the pain of losing connection with her older children, Isabella and Connor, and the fragile hope that maybe this time things could end differently. She had always feared that fame would harden her daughters. Instead, it seemed to have made them gentler, wiser, and more empathetic. Keith Urban, too, found solace in their words. During a concert in Brisbane, he paused between songs and simply said, "My girls remind me what love really means. It's not about holding on, it's about letting go with grace." The audience erupted in applause, unaware that those words were his daughter's truth made public through melody. In their quiet courage, Sunday and Faith did what neither parent could fully manage. They gave voice to the pain, the love, and the peace that followed. Their honesty didn't just soften the world's perception, it healed something inside their parents too. In Sydney, Nicole has retreated to the calm of her home near the ocean. Neighbors describe her as peaceful, often seen walking along the shoreline with her daughters, her trademark composure softened by a genuine smile. Friends say she has rediscovered the joy of solitude, finding comfort in morning coffees, late-night reading, and quiet family dinners free from pretense. "She's lighter," one confidant shared. "She's not hiding behind perfection anymore." Her work, too, reflects this transformation. Nicole's upcoming project, an independent drama exploring forgiveness and reinvention, has already drawn early praise. Insiders say the role feels deeply personal, mirroring her own path from heartbreak to healing. She has even spoken privately about producing films centered on resilience and womanhood, turning her pain into something powerful. Keith Urban, meanwhile, continues to pour his emotions into his music. His latest tour, aptly titled Reborn, has captivated audiences with songs that blend reflection and redemption. Those close to him say the tour isn't about fame, it's about closure. He's not running from the past, a bandmate revealed. He's learning to sing through it. As for their daughters, Sunday and Faith, they remain the bridge between two worlds. They split their time between Nashville and Sydney, growing up surrounded by love rather than bitterness. Nicole and Keith's co-parenting relationship has become unexpectedly strong. They speak often, coordinate holidays, and share milestones with mutual respect. "We may not be married anymore," Nicole reportedly told a friend, "but we'll always be a family." Even Nicole's older children, Isabella and Connor, have quietly reconnected with her in recent months, a small but significant healing of old wounds. In the end, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's story isn't one of loss, it's one of rediscovery. They showed that even love touched by fame can evolve into something purer: respect, forgiveness, and quiet strength. Their children's voices carried truth, their choices carried grace, and their legacy endures beyond the spotlight's final fade.